The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ. And today is the big day.
It is the big day, the court day, and it is Monday in the rib, and it's Monday at the federal court in Boston. And let's get Admiral COVID on the job so we can get into all this busy Monday.
Okay. As of yesterday, total cases in Massachusetts was 640,399. New cases was 1,085. Total deaths is 17,199. New deaths was 6. Bristol County had 64,165 cases. And if you had forgotten about the case counts for Fall River, they were total counts last week was 13,666 with 154 new cases over a week, and total deaths was 364 with 4 new fatalities over last week. So we're all caught up with the numbers.
Yeah. And as usual, there's all kinds of chaos with what we're going to do here in state to state. But let's get into it. But before we do, CJ, I want to take just a couple of minutes. Our Friday show, we did a lot of talking about what happened at the meeting. But I think that, I was thinking about it over the weekend, and I said, look, something's got to be, even for the city employees, because stuff's really complicated and a lot of people don't understand. And the politicians always show you the tree, not the whole forest. And we got into it. But I think a really important thing, and I think maybe even some of the people that are on the PEC now are really unaware of this. And I know that the mayor is using $7.5 million, but let me explain something that a lot of people don't know. You will understand this very clearly because you understand medical billing and stuff. There is a thing called incurred but not reported claims. That means that they actually have 1 year to send in a medical bill. And there's also billing that takes place in the last 3 months of a year. Now, the problem is the processing of that bill carries over into the following contract year of the healthcare. And those are called incurred but not reported bills. And what a lot of people don't understand is that all medical carriers, like Blue Cross, require 3 months of premium costs to be put in escrow to pay those runoff claims. You never use them normally unless you change carriers. What happens here is that those incurred but not reported bill comes in the first, second, third, fourth, fifth month of the new year. But if you still got Blue Cross, it's just melded into the regular billing. So, but if you change carriers, you have to have that money in escrow in order to pay Blue Cross what you owe them and pay your new carrier for their billing. And if you didn't have this escrow, you wouldn't have enough money. The city of Fall River is required, and believe me, they whined a lot about having to do this. And it was the major factor why they couldn't go to a premium plan when they couldn't change plans from a self-payer to a premium, because they didn't have enough money to pay the incurred but not reported. And I want to tell you something about that trust fund. We have 3 months of that trust fund is encumbered, because that's if we change plans. That comes out to $4.5 million. So when we talk about $5 million, that only gives us $500,000 for overruns during any particular month. So when you look at 7.5, you take $4.5 million that's encumbered for incurred but not reported claims. Then you take about another $1.5 million that we got because of COVID that's already encumbered for the COVID claims to make sure we don't run short. Now, let's do simple math. What's 4.5 and 1.5? 6. So fundamentally, we're talking about a 1.5 million excess, which is 1 month's, basically around 1 month's worth of claims that we have to play with here. And this is the key. And that's what makes what the mayor did so outrageous. He doesn't have a clue. And if he doesn't believe me, walk over to Mary Sahadi and ask her if you guys have got money in escrow. And you can't touch it because they know you'll rob it. But you can't touch that escrow for incurred but not reported. So I just have to clear that up because I think that's, because that 7.5 number, you know how politicians love to spin things. Oh, look at all this money, It's not. It's there for a reason. We have to have that because the city's always trying to change your plan, people. And if they do, we're going to get incurred but not reported billing that could last up to a year. The first 6 months is normally where the majority of them come in, but we're going to have to pay those bills to Blue Cross. And let's say, for the sake of argument, we went to Harvard Pilgrim, you'd have to be paying, but every month to the billing coming in through Harvard Pilgrim, and that means we would be broke, and then you would get a massive increase in your premiums. So just to show how absolutely ridiculous that we don't have to actually think and get numbers and projections before we do this shows the absurdity. And they don't care because they'll just raise taxes and fees. We can't do that. All we can do is raise the premiums for everybody when we screw up our numbers. That's why we don't screw up our numbers. So I just wanted to wrap that up.
Well, it's to me, it's a good thing that you and members of the PEC are looking out for the employees and the retirees. And it always sounds like, because the employees are sitting there saying, "Oh, a payment holiday. That's a little extra money in my pocket," but they don't know what's going on in the background. And then the mayor's making the comments that it's your fault they're not getting the holiday. Well, in a sense, it is your fault they're not getting the holiday because you're looking out for them. Because what's a 1 month premium in your pocket if 3 months later we have to ask you for a 2 month increase in your premiums? It makes no sense.
No, you're right. And the thing is, that's the irony. He's saying that we don't want to give it. We were talking about a holiday before he ever brought it up. But the thing is that obviously, why wouldn't I want a holiday? I get it too. I mean, that's absurd. It's not like I can go to that 7.5 million and take out a loan. It only can be used for the employee health care. So I'm going to get it too. You don't think I wanted a holiday? You don't think I want a holiday around Christmas time? Of course I do. But we have to be fiduciary. I know that's an expletive to the city. We have to be fiduciarily responsible. We have to protect the people, and they don't understand that because they don't realize it. Trust funds and stuff like that, why they're there. They're there because they have to be there. Blue Cross requires the city of Fall River to maintain 3 months worth, and they try to negotiate that down. And the fact is, they can't touch it. It's got to remain in escrow. They can't dip into it. We're not required, but obviously as a self-payer, we keep it in there because that's what we have to do because we know. And the irony of this is the same guy who's talking this stuff is the guy that's been trying to change the healthcare plan since the day he set foot in that office. Tried to switch us over to the GIC. Now he's coming up with a whole bunch of other plans. He keeps trying to save, as he says, nickels and dimes by shifting the cost to the employees. And that's what the employees don't realize. And that's what really, really irritated me about this whole scenario. This is a pure political move, and he doesn't care about the long-range impact. And I said that in meeting because he won't be around. He won't be the mayor, and he'll probably move to Florida. So the fact is that it's our job because guess who they'll try to lynch when their premiums go up through the roof, they'll say, "What the hell have you been doing over there? Sleeping?" No, we're not. And like you said, but we have to wrap that one up. I think it's important because a lot of people have absolutely, and you do obviously, because you deal with all kinds of Medicare billing and stuff like that. You understand it. Sometimes that those things are not processed. They run over into another year, and those are called incurred but not reported because they're there, and an income is the money. So, all right.
Exactly. Yeah. Basically, it's like a loan that you don't know about.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, the magic money. There you go.
That's right. The magic money. Hey, you remembered it. Good. Hey, did you hear about an episode that occurred during the joint meeting of the city council and the school committee?
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up because I think we really got to talk about that because that was again another example of how this city is out of control. The politicians are they're uncontrolled. They think they can do whatever they want and get away with it. So why don't you tell us what this is, the basis of this is, and we have corroborated this, by the way.
Yes, and I've actually spoken to the victim, and I'm going to use that term, victim. And he has said that his name can be mentioned. Collin Dias was assaulted by school committee member Tom Corey. Now remember, there's a difference between assault and battery. Battery means you actually made the contact. Assault is threatening to do the contact. It appears that the bully, Tom Corey, went head-to-head, face-to-face with Collin Dias, who is a young activist in the city, and who also plans on running for school committee, he told me yesterday. Now, I don't appreciate bullying in any form, but it's obvious that the Fall River School Department has a bigger bullying problem than just Matt Malone. It's obviously down to the administrative portion of it at the school committee level. And we know that there are at least one or two school committee members that have shown some symptoms of bullying. I'm going to use symptoms because I don't want to say they're bullies yet, but they're showing some symptoms of bullying. But to approach in a governmental building, in a city council chamber, a citizen, and use explicitives, making it as though he's the problem, is unacceptable. Unacceptable. You may not agree with what the general public has to say about your job, your votes, or what you're doing, but you have to respect the fact that they have the right to say that. You have the right to civil discussion. You don't have the right to bullying and threats. That's not acceptable. That's not acceptable. And this has been going on for too long. Since this Matt Malone thing has come out, we're finding bullying in more and more departments, and we're hearing about it. You and I are both hearing about it, about complaints being filed, the city not doing anything because the complaint's not written. I mean, this isn't acceptable. This isn't acceptable.
No, absolutely not. And I think it's bullying, which is unacceptable. But let's put this in the context. This individual went up and exercised his constitutional rights to freedom of speech by giving citizens input. And he has every right to do so. And apparently, school committeeman Corey did not appreciate it. So rather than rebut it, he decided to go in and fundamentally, get in somebody's face. And I know you spoke to the victim, and you said assault is assault, and assault is, that is assault when you're close enough to commit battery. If you yell things across the street from somebody, you're not going to get convicted of assault because you couldn't commit assault. But from what I've been told, and you spoke to him, and I want you to speak to this, not only is it trying to suppress the individual's constitutional right to freedom of speech, okay, it's also totally, grossly unprofessional behavior by another member of the school department. because I was told that this individual was using all kinds of expletives, all kinds of F-bombs and other things, screaming and pointing his finger in his face.
Yes.
So you can tell us what he told you. This is not, now, this is what he said. This is his version of what he said. And by the way, I have spoken to an eyewitness, and that eyewitness corroborated it. And his words to me were that Corey was totally out of control. And he was literally screaming at a young man who's half his size in a public building after a public forum. That's disgraceful, unprofessional, and he should resign.
Well, what was interesting was I asked Collin, was the police officer present? And he said he actually spoke to the officer when he got a chance to do that. And the officer said it's going to require further investigation. What further investigation? You were standing right there and saw it. Why didn't you step up and get in the middle of these two and say, look, you go your way, you go your way, or you wait here and you leave? Something along that line. Stop it before it got out of hand. Granted, it didn't result in blows, but guess what? Somebody should have done something. And is it because he was an elected official that the police officer didn't want to do anything? I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to make a judgment call on the officer's behalf. I think the officer was there. He was looking at this in his professional capacity, and he felt that it didn't require him to step in. But from what I understand, the finger was being pointed, the voice was being loud, and as Collin was trying to get around Mr. Corey would move to get right back in front of him. So obviously Collin was doing things, and this is according to Collin. Collin was trying to do things to avoid this conflict. But again, didn't happen. And Corey made it clear that he did not like his citizens' input. And he called him a troublemaker. Well, more than I've got to remove the words because our producer is over there and he's ready to hit the button. But the words are there. And, he was calling him a troublemaker. He told him to get out of the way, back down. This isn't appreciated. This isn't appreciated. You have a citizen, a young citizen who wants to get involved in the process, and you're doing everything to stop it. Plus, you're supposed to be an example to the schools, to the kids in the schools. And this is the example you set, that bullying is okay? This is the example you set? Well, I'm sorry. That's not acceptable.
Well, I know that, one thing, that this narrative and these semantics, the language being used to manipulate, Jesus, they would call me in the middle of this. This is all labels, and I always talk about labels. This is all BS, okay? One man's troublemaker is another man's advocate.
That's it.
So that's BS. So the bottom line is, it's like we have on a national stage. If you don't agree with the controlling party, you are now a racist, a white supremacist, and every other label, because you are not entitled to a different opinion. And that opinion can be totally peaceful and totally logical, but you're not entitled to it anymore. And it's a dangerous way we're going in this country. And I spoke to the eyewitness. Collin tried to get away from him, and he would not relent. He was following him around, berating him, because he had a different opinion. And that is someone who is a school committeeman and a former teacher. So did he do that in a classroom to his students? The question has to be begged. Does he do this routinely to people who have a different opinion than he does? And I know he fancies himself an ultra liberal, and he's very feely. He likes to embrace everything. And the atmosphere was so collegial. Oh, it was such a wonderful meeting. I sing, and everything. But then he screams at somebody. Well, at least be I hope you reflected on your behavior and realize. And I was told by the eyewitness that Mimi Larrabee and somebody else who's running for school committee was down there, and they were telling them, and they actually uttered these words to show you how spiteful and how condescending these people are because of their station in life. They, when they finally broke off and he wanted to still go back, they told him, "Come down here, Tommy. He's not worth it." In other words, he's nothing more than a piece of excrement. Leave him alone because he's not worth it, because actually he has a different opinion. Now, that is just, there's no place for that. You and I will argue with anybody for as long as they want about everything and anything.
That's true.
That's the way it should be. We should be able to stand there and say, hey, because then there's a difference between debate, argument, and fighting and assaulting people. And you can't do that. You cannot do that because, he should, in my opinion, he shouldn't be on the school committee. Just like Malone, he should be gone. And right. I don't know what kind of atmosphere we have in the school department where we see behavior like this from the superintendent and a school committeeman. And maybe I know why he didn't want to get rid of Malone. Because he behaves the same way, apparently.
Looks that way. I guess you can't get rid of yourself, right?
That's right. But it's crazy. But segueing from that into Fall River, I watched the video you sent me. I object. Fall River was rated as the 4th worst place in Massachusetts to live, and I don't think so. We're higher than that. And by the way, on May 16th on the channel EPIX, they are running a documentary series on the Carl Drew murders, satanic cult murders, and I think it's entitled "Satanic Cult Murders: A Terrified City." And it's about Fall River, and I saw the advertisement. They showed an old Fall River police car, the old Fall River police station, and they showed some of the dogs walking around the reservation during the event. It should be quite interesting. It starts on May 16th on EPIX, so if you have EPIX, look for it. But Fall River was rated the fourth worst city, in spite of the fact that all the politicians endorsed the other politician. So all our delegation in Boston who do nothing, Fall River continues to be rated in the top 5 in crime, drugs, places to live. Yet, remember, none of that counts. The drug addiction, the crime, nobody cares. Watch the video. But the fact is, they're saying that they cleaned up the Flint, so that means you can get reelected. How about cleaning up the drugs? How about controlling the crime? How about getting people jobs? They talked about the over 20%. The last figure I looked at is 23% living below the poverty line. But keep raising taxes, do nothing at all for the quality of life in Fall River, and then say, reelect me because I had movies, I suggested a holiday, and I'm a nice guy.
Of course you're a nice guy. It's funny because this weekend he went out and he made it to the Little League team kickoff. He made it to the cleanup. He made it to his movies. And those are nice things, but they're not effective things. They're not things that are going to change the quality of life or the face of Fall River. It gives people a moment of joy or a short period of joy, but it's not changing Fall River. As I said in the Weekend Flush, economic development is not the approval of a lot of market rate housing. It's getting BCTC off its backside and doing some training, getting people trained, getting people to know where it is, where you can get a job, what type of job you can get. more effective than just what they're doing now, where they're paying for nurses training and phlebotomists. Okay, we need more training than that, because sooner or later the market will get overwhelmed and there won't be enough of those jobs. Which already phlebotomists, there are not enough jobs for phlebotomists, because the labs use their own lab technicians to draw the blood now. So you've got that issue going on.
Yeah, well, CJ, to me, this is a problem of perspective. In the way you look at something. You see, people go, oh, you get a movie, the kids are happy for a couple of hours. Well, number one, let's look at something a little deeper. They can't afford to go to a regular movie because I don't know how much it is. I don't even go to movies anymore. But the fact is that what's more important to these families is that their kids get a lunch from the school, because they don't have a job. They don't have money. They're worrying about paying the rent. And while it's nice to have a free movie, let's figure out why everybody's flocking to a free movie. Because they can't afford to go to a regular movie. They don't have jobs. Look at the statistics. Look at the people living below the poverty line. The guy just did a YouTube video on it. And it's like, it's amazing how oblivious these politicians can be to the reality of Fall River. Just like in Washington, Maxine Waters can go incite violence, but when she went there, she requested police protection, the same police that she wants to defund. The Congress wants to defund police, except for the Capitol Police. Nancy Pelosi, when they got near her compound, called the police. They had a video of one of the riots. And when the rioters began to get overrun by other people, the first thing one of the rioters did that was just yelling, defund the police, they had her on audio screaming, somebody call the police. So, you can't have your cake and eat it too. The reality is this is supposed to be a society of laws. Nobody's saying that the police don't need that not all policemen are good, not all firefighters, everybody, not all humans are good. As a matter of fact, most of them aren't. But the fact is, let's look at reality. You can't do without police. There should be police reform. You can't do without things. This is a society of law. You can't have a society where the people who are rioting can riot until they get their way, whether they're right or wrong. And that's just, this country is on its way to being like the Roman Empire. We are rotting from within. And that's what Khrushchev said a long time ago. We don't have to worry about America. America will destroy itself.
And we're doing a good job of it.
That's right.
All right, real quick, because we are starting to run out of time here. That posting on the Florida Police Department Facebook page, it has been rumored, and both of us have received reports that this was done by a Florida Police Department captain. We have no confirmation from the police department or the mayor on that issue. But I'm not sure whether or not it was a bad thing or a good thing. But it did break out the Black Lives Matter group to come out and create a protest, which was civil and peaceful. So you decide what you believe on that. I mean, there's no question about it. It was definitely. And
nobody's ever got a problem with civil and peaceful. And
that's right.
That was directed at you, Tommy Corey.
Yeah, that's it. Well, people, we're out of time. We're going to get right from here. We're going to be going to watch the Jasiel Correia trial, and Wednesday we will hopefully have some information on it for you. Thanks for watching. Remember, stay safe, stay angry, wear your mask, hold your politicians accountable, and keep to yourself, because otherwise you'll get attacked by a school committee member. Have a great day.
Touche.